Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It is technically it's Fire Friday. We are going to be dealing with hot things tonight, not necessarily fire, because we're going to be doing under glass pendant, which is done with a soldering iron. And I'm going to do my best not to give myself a matching scar to the one that I gave myself last time I was doing under glass pendant. So it's so good to see you all. Hi, Lori. Hi, Julie. Hi, everyone else who's out there. Happy Friday to everyone who works a traditional work week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm gonna try and get through the next, day and change, and then I will also have a weekend. I'm very excited about that. So tonight we're doing under glass pendant. So this is absolutely a tutorial that we've done before, and it appears in the crafting community in a whole lot of guises, but basically it is, yay, new kitties! New kitties are the best. So it's basically two pieces of glass, and you sandwich something in between them. Then we're going to copper foil tape these and solder them together. Now, a lot of underglass pendants use two pieces of this, which is called micro thin glass. This is also used for microscope slides, and this is how this craft started, was using actual microscope slides. But now you can get the micro thin glass in different shapes and sizes. Like I have a couple that I've prepped that I'm not going to do tonight, but you can get it in circles and you can get it in squares as well. So these all have little pressed flowers in them that I'm going to do. And so that's your micro thin glass. So you can get that from me. I've got plenty of that for sale. And if anybody wants me to post pictures of what I have for sale on Discord, I'm happy to do so. However, one of my favorite things to do is to then back up my micro thin glass with a piece of stained glass. So instead of having a clear pendant, you've got a colored backing. That's probably just because I have this weird obsession with stained glass, but and there's a really amazing, and again, I have oodles of these, and do you know why? Because one night I went down a rabbit hole on Etsy and bought a ton of pieces of pre-cut stained glass because I have a glass cutter, but I'm not super great at it. I don't have a grinder. I have an ass ton of stained glass sheets that I need to sell to somebody who actually does stained glass. But there is a really sweet, nice, independently owned company that sells on Etsy that does pre-cut pieces, pre-ground pieces of stained glass in various different sizes and shapes, and they are amazing, and again, super, super sweet. So I just one night was like, hey, I'm just gonna buy a bunch of stained glass. So that's what I like. And then this one's extra cool because it's textured on one side, so that's actually going to be the back of my pendant, so that the back of my pendant's going to have that cool texture on it. Now, I think I mentioned the other night that the Dallas Public Library is hosting a Beetlejuice themed ball next month, and we've been invited to then. Super exciting. So since they're doing tarot readings, yeah, well, when I say sheets, like, yes, one could carry it as a shield, except for the fact that it's glass. But I really should move those sheets of glass along to somebody who actually will use them, because they're just sitting in my garage. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, since the Dallas Public Library is including tarot readings as a part of the activities provided during the Beetlejuice Ball, I've decided that we're going to do tarot. They are windshields, it's true, except for the fact that you can't see through them because they're all colors. But so I've decided that we're going to do tarot themed jewelry as our craft at the ball. So I'm going to have a pretty simple craft that people can do themselves, but I'm also going to have some tarot themed jewelry to sell. And did you know that they make tiny tarot cards? Look how... Focus. Nope. Well, the drama of that moment was completely gone, but it's tiny. It's bitty. It's like, it's the Rider-Waite deck. which is kind of the, you know, the standard basic one, but the cards are only an inch and 3/8 tall. They're so cute. They're so little, so cute. So I picked the High Priestess, which if my camera would focus, you could see, and her colors go really, really well with this piece of teal colored glass. And this is the other reason that I really like this. Oh, it focused for like half a second. Just not nice. Stupid camera. But anyway, the thing I like also about the colored background is that even if you have a thing that doesn't fill the entirety of your pendant, you still have a pretty backdrop. Now, I will say when you're doing this, you can't use anything that's too thick. So, like my pressed flowers here, like this is about as thick as you can get, and even this one, like this one's going to be a little problematic. Like you can see the layering up on that one. Something more like this is what you're looking for, where you can see the relief on that's practically nothing. The reason for this is because you need a good, hi Corvus! You need a good seal between the two pieces of glass. If you don't have a good seal in between the two pieces of glass, what's going to happen is the flux and the moisture and stuff is going to get in there, and then it's going to make things that are in there start getting kind of icky. So you need something that's fairly flat. So paper, delicate pressed flowers are good. I've done it with feathers. Sometimes you've got to trim down. I do not remember the name, but the shaft, there it is. The shaft of the feather, sometimes you've got to shave that down with the razor blade to get it to be skinny enough. But I have done a lot with feathers that I really love. So you do have options. They're only flat. Flat options. Oh, sorry, Cappy. Flat options only. I mean, you can take tons of time and you can build tiny little paper collages and all of that stuff in between these. And I've seen some really, really cool things done with this. Yay! Yay, Corvus! Oh, that's awesome, Julie. Well, once again, for those who just joined us, aka Corvus, I have microscope glass for sale and I have stained glass for sale. So I can hook you up. So as far as tools, what do we need? Allison. We need solder. I'll be right back. Okay. Go in. Ah! I'm stuck. Accidentally closed one of the ties of my shirt into the drawer. Yes, stained glass. Okay, so basically, just a really quick recap for Corvus is, so you can use the microscope slide glass and you can sandwich your piece between two of the micro thin glass, but what I like to do is use the cut stained glass and sandwich my piece in between that and the micro thin glass so that I have a colored background. And I do have cut pieces of stained glass for sale. If you don't want to buy them from me for some reason, that's totally fine. I can point you towards the Etsy shop from which I purchased them because they are also a small business and we're supporting. So now I've actually got solder. Let's talk about what do we actually need to do this project. So you need solder. This is low temperature. I will post, so since Corvus wants to get some from me, I will go ahead and post on Discord. Oh, I could. Okay, would you guys rather I post on Discord or just bring them out for the next sale? I can do either or both. But I will definitely, bringing them out for the next sale is probably easier, I guess. But I can also post pictures on Discord if anybody wants. So this is low temperature lead-free solder. You don't want to use leaded solder if you're going to be wearing it on your skin. It's just not a good idea. So this is lead-free solder. You can see it's pretty thick and it's very, very flexible. You get this in a coil or a spool. I think I will just put them on the sale next week, Corvus. I think that's going to be easier for me if you can wait that long. You're also going to need gel flux. So this is different than the flux that you use when you're soldering sterling silver. And I love that they say no mess gel. This stuff is the stickiest, messiest stuff on the planet, but no odor, no smoke. You guys are so full of beans. So any kind of gel flux that's made for stained glass is going to work for this. You do need that because without the flux, your solder is not going to flow. And again, you can't use your flux that you use for sterling silver because it is not the same chemical. It does not work the same. You're going to need 2 pieces of glass. So I'm going to use my microscope glass and my stained glass. You're going to use something to put in there. I'm going to use my little my little tarot card, which I really wish it would focus because it's a really pretty, I mean, it's the Rider-Waite High Priestess, so you can also Google it. And then, let's see. Okay, I don't need a keyboard for this. I also need this, which is muy importante. This is copper foil tape. Now, the solder will not stick to the glass. So we have this adhesive copper foil tape, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to put a layer of copper foil tape to hold the glass together, and then we're going to cover that with the solder. So the copper foil tape in and of itself really isn't sturdy enough to hold the glass together, but once we cover it with a layer of solder, then we have a sturdy enough product that it's going to work. We do need a decent soldering iron. I've got a Weller soldering iron, which is one of the better ones. I tried cheap ones, and they and I did not agree on much of anything, so they got filed away in the dumpster. But if you're better with a soldering iron than me, you just need a soldering iron with a flat kind of bladed tip like this. And yes, this is hot, so I'm going to try not to get it too close to the camera. Pliers or hemostats. I like hemostats because you don't have to concentrate on squeezing things necessarily when you're working with them. And that is, oh, and then cleaning materials, because, okay, so when I was a kid, they had, hi Keiko, they had those frame it yourself shops in the mall. I don't know if anybody else remembers this or if this was unique to my childhood experience, but you know, the main, like, there were all of these cleaning, like, you could buy your glass, you could get your glass cut, you can get your frames cut, but then you put it together yourself. And there were all of these tools, like all of these cleaning materials, so you could clean the inside of the glass before you put the picture in there, because once it's framed, if there's a fingerprint on the inside, you are SOL. That's a good question. I mean, it's lead-free solder. So what is lead-free solder made from? That's a good question. It's got a pretty low melting point, Corvus. So Corvus asked, what exactly is this metal? Because they really don't, when you're buying it, they just call it lead-free solder. So, that's not helpful. But it looks like, okay, so according to the interwebs, it is typically tin and copper. So typically it's tin and copper with possibly a little bit of zinc or silver, but mostly tin and copper, which, interestingly enough, tin and copper is also brass, which brings up a really interesting point of alloys, metallurgy. It's really interesting stuff. So how is copper and tin interesting? The article I just read said mostly copper and tin, but I mean, I could totally get down with some antimony. Antimony? Anyway, but what I find interesting is that this is mostly copper and tin, and brass is copper and tin. So the more copper you have, the yellower it gets. The more tin you have, the whiter it gets. So it's an interesting thing about most of the base metals, and this is why there are sometimes, and I've been dealing with this a lot recently, issues with base metal alloys. And one of the main metal suppliers that a lot of us use recently changed their bronze supplier, and it's a different alloy, it's a different color. It's got more of one, or bronze is copper and zinc. No, bronze is copper and tin, brass is copper and zinc. I don't remember. Anyway, it's got more of one metal in it than it used to have, and it's a different color, and everyone is freaking out. So, but it's interesting how you can take the two exact same metals and just in different proportions, they make something that looks and functions completely differently. That's your science lesson for the day. So back to cleaning things, because I don't want to have any fingerprints or nasty stuff on the inside of my pendant. So I'm going to keep my paper towel away from my soldering iron, and I've got just some denatured alcohol over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is get some denatured alcohol on my thingy. The second thing I'm going to do is find my mouse. And well, hello, Dogsy from sunny California. It's nice to see you on the stream. Also, happy belated to your beloved, as we did not see her last night. So I hope that everyone is doing well. All right. So when I'm cleaning, the outside doesn't matter. The outside, in point of fact, is going to get gross, nasty, disgusting. That's fine. You can clean that after. You just need to clean the inside. Yeah, metallurgy is a whole thing. I'll send you some book recommendations. So the textured side is going to be the outside. So I want to clean the smooth side. So I've got some denatured alcohol on a paper towel, and I'm just going to clean that off. And what I want to do is, once I've done that, I don't want to grab it like this. No, I just want to hold it by the edges and set it aside. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my microscope glass. And I'm going to clean one side. And since this one doesn't have a texture to differentiate one side from the other, I'm just going to take this, I'm going to set it clean side up. And then the last thing that I need is somewhere over here. Okay, I just need a little bit of glue. It doesn't have to be anything special. Just any old glue will do. So I'm going to take my stained glass. And this is just because I need to keep my, well, okay, I'm going to try, but I got no promises for you, Julie. I think this glue has not been used in a very long... Oh! I think this glue has never been used because it's still sealed. That would explain why it's not coming out of the little spongy top thing. Let's try that again, shall we? So, yep, okay. So I just have some regular craft glue here. Nothing fancy schmancy. And all I'm going to do is take my piece that I'm putting in my pendant, and I'm just going to put a really light dab of glue on the back and stick it down onto my stained glass. Center it. There we go. Okay. And the glue is just there because when I'm messing with this, when I'm foil taping it and all of that stuff, I don't want to have to worry about my card or my whatever shifting around, like all my little flower collages that I haven't finished the tops of yet, but like these are they're all glued down. I have done in the past things that are not glued down, but it's just a lot easier, I think, if you secure it. Yeah, now the thing is I'm gonna need to let this wait for a minute to get tacky. But so there's that. That was literally, you can use any kind of clear glue works. You want something that sets pretty quickly. Well, okay, let me rephrase. If you're impatient like me and you don't plan ahead, you probably want something that sets pretty quickly. If you are going to do all the gluing, days before and then put the pieces on top and solder them, you can glue them with pretty much anything clear. But again, I don't usually plan that far ahead, so I like something that's a quick setting glue. Literally Elmer's glue, hypo cement, super glue, whatever random craft glue this is in this, like whatever is nearest to hand is what I will use, because the only point of this, so ultimately, this will be held in place by the tension between your two pieces of glass. So this is literally only a temporary solution to hold it while you're working with it, so you don't have to worry about it slipping and sliding around. So it's still setting. I'm going to give it another minute, and then we're going to go back to working with this. Meanwhile, let's talk about copper foil tape. So copper foil tape comes in a variety of different thicknesses. This is the 1/4 inch size of copper foil tape. And temporarily holding, diamond glaze, that was the other thing I was going to say. Temporarily holding, like it only needs to last as long as you're working with it. And then once it's soldered, you're done. You're good to go. So, copper foil tape comes in different thicknesses. So this is the 1/4 inch. If you're using stained glass, you want to get the 1/4 inch because the stained glass is thicker. It's literally almost twice as thick as the microscope glass is, if you can see the two of those. So if you're using stained glass and microscope glass, you want the 1/4 inch. If you're just using microscope glass, then you can go down a little bit and you can get whatever the next size down is. 3/8? Yeah, 3/8 I think is, no. Okay, brain, 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. Rulers are hard. So again, 1/2 inch, correcting what I just said like 2 minutes ago. 1/2 inch copper foil tape for stained glass, 3/8 of an inch for double microscope glass. If you are confused about what size you should order, take your two pieces of glass, sandwich them together, take a caliper, measure that thickness, and then add about 1/8 of an inch on either end, so add about 1/4 of an inch to that measurement to get your final size, because you need to fold it over. We're going to cover that in just a second. So this piece of glass is basically 1 3/4, 1 3/4, and then 1 and 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 inches. So I'm going to cut myself about 6 inches of copper foil tape because it never hurts to have a little bit more than you need. And I don't have a good ruler over here, so I'm just going to guesstimate. Also, how can I not have a scissors? I do. So I'm just eyeballing myself about 6 inches. It's better to have too much than not enough. copper tape is not inexpensive, but it's also not super expensive, so... Well, hello, Tiny Fit. Ahem, what? I'm being hemmed at. I has a concern. Also, has a concern about my hair, but anyway. So, bear in mind that if you cut too much copper foil tape, you'll be wasting possibly 1 inch to 2 inches of copper foil tape. If you cut too little copper foil tape, you will be... Oh, I'm so sorry, Dollyfet. I know, I'm the worst. I texted you back in my head, if that means anything. And then I didn't realize that that was only in my head for a while. Also, we miss you too. But you're on stream tonight. And Heather's not on stream because she's working from home. So yes, consider me chastised. I apologize. So back to copper foil tape. If you cut too much, you are going to waste a couple of inches. If you cut too little, you're going to waste the whole freaking piece. So ultimately, I know, but I should have texted you back. I did it in my brain. I think I even did it in a dream. I also had some other weirdo dreams. Because trazodone. But, I'm so sorry. And it was really good to hear from you. Okay, so now my glue's mostly set. Again, so I've got a little bit of glue on there. That's only there to hold it while I'm working with it. So now comes the fun / annoying part. We're going to copper foil this mother trucker. Alright, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to... traffic. I don't know what, there was my Murphy's Law day, which was, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know, I had a Murphy's Law day this week, and the traffic was so bad, and I mean, like, bad for Dallas, which is saying something. Okay, so I've got these two now together in a nice little glass sandwich. And now I'm going to take my copper foil tape and I'm going to kind of start the end, which I should have done before I did the sandwich, but too late now. So, what you do not want to do with your copper foil tape is take all the paper off the back and then try and work with it, because you are going to hate your life and you're going to hate me for putting you on this path. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of treat this more like a Band-Aid, and we're going to start sticking it on to our piece as we peel the paper backing off. Now the goal here, I'm going to just do this off the camera so I can see it a little better, so that I can show you. So the goal here with the tape, and don't worry if it's a little wrinkly, we're going to fix that in a minute, but the goal is to have the same amount of tape on the front as on the back side. Yay! Hi, Silver! Yes! Happy belated! I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, month, year, rest of your life, and all of that. But, yes, but specifically, happy birthday. Okay, so I'm just sticking that down, and again, you just want to kind of, and that's not perfect, but, you know, nobody's perfect. But you want to make sure you're doing your best to have equal amounts on each side, so on the front side and on the back side. So I want the height of those to be relatively the same. And this is a little tricky because you need to pull on it, and you can just kind of gently press it to stick it on. But if you pull too hard, you're going to rip it. So you have to put just enough tension on it that you'll get a nice smooth line without just tearing it to shreds. So, and especially the corners. The corners are killer sometimes. So I'm just going to keep sticking that down. And there we go. Okay, so I've got the foil all the way around. And then I'm going to trim it. So that's a hemostat. That's not a scissors. That's a scissors. So Heather is working from home today. She is in the middle of flags, and it's just a lot easier for her to do flags at home because they require focus and concentration, and sometimes here at the Beading Dreams. So I'm going to cut this because I only want it to overlap a little bit. So I've got an overlap there that's like 1/4 of an inch. So I did waste some. All right, good luck, Silver. I wasted about 2 inches of it, but again, that's better than wasting the whole 6. So now what I'm going to do is I need to lay this down onto my glass. And so I'm going to start with my corners. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down and do kind of like a little mitered corner. I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. Okay, you can see right there where I did not get that straight. I'm gonna show you how to fix that in a minute. Ooh, and this too. Wow, I did not do a great job. That's okay. Okay, so there are my corners. Okay, so this right here, this is what you want it to look like, okay? So see how nice and clean that looks versus how utterly wonky and weird the rest of this looks. So just, do as I say, not as I do. Oh, crumb. Okay, and I ripped through, pulled too hard. So I'm gonna need to patch that. But, okay, then we're gonna do the same thing on the back. I'm just gonna miter the corners, and it's gonna look just as wonky on the back as it did on the front, because that's the way things work. All right, so got my corners done. So now I gotta do 2 things. Number 1 is I've gotta do some trimming to fix some of this wonkiness. And number 2, I have to patch where I busted through the corner. Because if I don't patch there, the solder's not gonna stick there. So, unfortunately for me, I threw my extra piece of tape in the trash. So I'm just gonna cut myself another small piece of tape, copper foil tape, and I'm gonna... We're actually down below 100. It's amazing. So happy. All right, so this is where, so you can see where the glass busted through because I pulled it too hard. So I'm just gonna take my tape and just tape over that and then redo that corner. And as long as I do a really good job of burnishing it down, it shouldn't really be noticeable. Fall is here, damn it. Tell that to the weather, Corvus. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of trimming, which means I need a knife. How can I have every tool under the dang sun and not have an X-Acto knife in front of me? Like, this is ridiculous. Sorry, be right back. And actually, you guys are walking with me because I still have my mic on. Okay, so now I have a cutting thing. Yay! I know, it's ridiculous and it's only getting worse. Okay, so now I'm going to take my X-Acto and my handy dandy tiny little square. I love this tiny little square. it makes me so happy. So obviously I can't make this part wider, so I need to make this part narrower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little square and I'm going to line it up with that, and then I'm just going to take my knife and I'm just going to cut down. And what I should be able to do is then just pick up and peel off the tape, theoretically. Yeah, there we go. So just grab it and it should peel off like so. So just take off that section, and then I can do the same thing up here. Just even it out. And then if you have a little bit of messiness around the corners, you can just kind of use your X-Acto to sort of shove those in. Now, at this point you have a choice. You can also go and fix the back if you want, or you can just be like, hey, it's the back. I don't care. Considering that I am teaching a tutorial that's supposed to run for an hour, I'm going to go with option B. And, you know, and it doesn't look fabulous, but it doesn't look too bad. And again, it's the back. What really matters to me is the framing of the image on the front. So, no bueno. So now it's time to burnish. So, you can use a nylon burnisher or a folding bone. I use a folding bone because that's what I have more of, but if you're using a folding bone, you need to be a little bit more careful with both your pressure, well, just with your pressure generally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish out this copper foil tape, and you'll see pretty dramatically like the difference between burnished and non-burnished. Okay, so essentially you're just ironing out all the wrinkles of the tape. Especially if you're using a folding bone, don't use the edge, use the kind of the curved part here. So that's a good question. So Corvus just asked, does the stickiness of the copper tape matter, or does the solder make it stick to the glass forever? And the answer is the copper foil tape. So I'm going to keep burnishing. So I did this side, and I'm going to go over that again in a minute. I just want to do the other side first. And what you're doing here is you're just making sure you have a good seal between the tape and the glass. So basically what happens, Corvus, is the tape sticks to the metal, and then what the solder does is it forms a non-flexible coating on the tape in the shape that it's in. So it's, you know, it's basically like if you had, you know, put fabric over something and then coated it in cement. The fabric then is no longer flexible and will retain the shape that it's in when you coated it in cement, if that makes sense. And if I wasn't teaching and if I wasn't worried about time, I definitely would take a minute to clean up some of this, but at this point I think it's just gonna be what it is. And then I'm gonna burnish the edges as well. And again, especially when you're working on the edges, because you've got the sharp edges of those glass, I want to emphasize, don't use the edge of your burnisher, use the curved part. If you're using a nylon burnisher, you don't have to worry as much because it's softer than a bone folder, but see, look what I just did. I just ripped it. So that's another quick patch job that I have to do. But yeah, so a nylon burnisher is much softer than a bone folder. I just can't for the life of me seem to keep track of my nylon burnisher because that's the way my life is. So yeah, I ripped a big old hole in that. So we're just gonna put some tape on there. Oh, well that's interesting. So apparently the backing on the copper foil tape is double layered, so one layer came off but the other layer didn't. Like, why isn't it sticking? Okay, so I just put that over my oopsie like a band-aid. And then just fold it over, and then we have to go back or we have to burnish that front part again. But again, don't use I was using too much of the edge, and that was what was my problem. Use the flat part. Just want to make sure and I'm sorry, I cannot with this back, so bear with me for a second. But you just want to make sure that everything is good and tight, because if you don't, you're going to wind up with nasty stuff all up on the inside. Okay, it was just that one part that was driving me bonkers. And if you're using textured glass like this on the back, you really do want to take a minute to make sure that it's really down. Alrighty, so that is taped and ready to go. And what I will oftentimes do is tape a bunch of things at once because, as you can see, the process is a bit labor intensive, so sometimes it's nice to just kind of have a taping night and, you know, do all of that, and then you can have a soldering night. But, okay. So now we get to play with fire. Yay! Well, not fire, but heat. So, now I'm going to grab a heat-proof surface. In this case, it's a tile, because you all know that I do love my subway tiles as work surfaces, mostly because I still have 80,000 of them from when they made me buy them to finish my shower, and I bought too many. Well, they told me to buy too many. But they're really good to work on. They're non-conductive, obviously they're non-flammable, and they're easy to transport. So I've got my flux, so it's just, again, my gel flux, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint a generous but not goopy coating of it over all of my foil tape. So I want to make sure that all of my copper foil tape has flux on it. And yes, you're going to get flux on the glass. Yes, you're going to get flux on your fingers. That's just the way that it works. But if you don't have flux on all that copper foil tape, the solder's not going to stick. Alright, so it doesn't matter which side of this you start on, but I'm going to start on the front just because. And now we're actually going to start putting the solder onto the copper foil tape. So I've got my solder here, and so what you're going to do is you're just going to take your soldering iron and you're going to hold it on your solder until your solder melts, and you're going to tell when your solder melts because your soldering iron is going to do what it just did. It's going to fall to the tile. So now I've got solder on my iron. My iron is hot. My iron's been plugged in since the beginning of the stream. I've got my iron in my right hand. I've got a hemostat in my left hand that I'm just going to use to hold. And what I'm going to do first is what's called tinning the solder. So I'm going to tinning the copper, excuse me. I'm going to take my soldering iron that has the solder on the bottom side, and I'm just going to run it over this copper foil tape. So what I'm doing is I just coated my copper foil tape with a layer of solder. And then I'm going to pick up a little more solder. I'm going to do the next edge and the next edge and the next edge. Now notice that I'm not touching this with my hands. You know why? Hi, Kenneth! You know why I'm not touching it? Because it's freaking hot. So I like my hemostats. You can use pliers, you can use tweezers. Basically what I'm doing is I'm using a tool to brace this so that I can do what I need to do without actually touching it with my hands. So now what I'm going to do is be awkward for a second. There we go. I opened my hemostat. And I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to tin the other side. Okay, so that's my front. And now this is my back, which is also coated with flux because I painted the whole thing. And I'm going to tin the back. So I'm just going to, and literally you just have to run the soldering iron after you've picked up the solder over the foil to get the tinning. Like, that's it. That's all you have to do. Now, yes, the dangerous part is definitely the fun part. Now what we're going to do, and this is where you're going to have to kind of use the jaws of your hemostats, is we're going to grab it and we're going to tin the edges. Like so. And then, so we're just going to do all 4 edges. It's fun to do as well, Keiko, because it's easier than torch soldering. And, yeah, and you get to deal with, like, blobby metal, which is always fun. Like, okay, so then, alright, I may have to go grab one more tool before I can finish this for y'all. Because I don't think I have one over here. Okay, so, but before we put the ring on the top, we're going to do one more thing with this. So, the tinning is pretty much, well, not good there. Here we go. So the tinning is pretty much sufficient for jewelry level of wear and tear, but what I like to do is build up the solder around the outside just a little bit because I think it looks prettier. Also, if you have any patches, it's going to help hide them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up my soldering iron again, and I'm just going to go on the outside, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap and lift. And what that's going to do, see, it's going to make a nice kind of rounded edge. So just load it up and then just tap and lift. Tap and lift. You got to load up about every 2 taps. You can't be impatient with this one. Tap and lift. Tap and lift. You can't be like tap, lift, tap, lift, tap, lift. Like this is not jazzercise. This is not, calisthenics. And then if you have any weirdnesses, you can go smooth them out with your soldering iron. Right, Julie? Seriously. I know you can do ball. I've never done spikes. I have done balls. We're not going to do balls tonight, but though I will say one of the nicest, well, Heidi Garano says lots of nice things about lots of people, including me. But one of the nicest things she's ever said about me is that she can destroy everybody else's jewelry except for she can't destroy mine. So I got to be doing something right. I'm just doing more tap and lift. So see how that's kind of smoothing out and covering the sort of roughness of the copper foil tape? That's why I like to do it. I mean, it's still organic. It's not super refined, but it kind of smooths everything out a bit and just gives a bit of a nicer edge and also a bit of a nicer corner as well. And everyone wants to know how you get a crazy ass solder drip like that. Okay, nobody wants you there. Now, on your square and rectangular pieces, this is a pretty straightforward process, kind of like what I'm doing now. On round pieces, it's a little bit more difficult because gravity is not working in your favor. So especially if you're working on a round piece, you've got to be really careful with the tap. Let it cool for a second and then move it. Again, when you're working on a rectangular or square piece, it's not as much of a big deal, but on a round piece, gravity is not helping you. Okay, so that's all of the soldering on there. And so if I wanted to, well, I do want to smooth that out. Come back here. So if I wanted to, I could go back one more round and smooth out everything. Again, I'm not going to do that because class, I'm just going to sort of, there we go, fix the really weird bits. And then I'm going to go get the one tool that I don't have that I need, which is the third hand, so that I can show you how to add a ring from which you can hang it. So again, BRB. So this tool is called the third hand, and it's basically just a weighted Opal's in the dishwasher. Okay. Maybe while Opal's in the dishwasher, she should wash the GD dishes. I mean, make herself useful. Okay, so this is called the third hand. It's basically a base with cross-locking tweezers. And what it does is it will hold this for me so that I can use my two hands to hold the soldered ring that's going on the top of it and my soldering iron. And this hand will hold my pendant. So I have my pendant set up in my third hand. Okay, so my base is over here and I've got it clamped. This is the top of my pendant. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a sterling silver jump ring. Could be a soldered ring. I actually prefer soldered rings because then I don't need to pay as much attention to which direction I'm putting them, but you know, you use what you have. And so I'm going to, this is always a pain on camera. Okay, so I'm going to hold it here, right in the middle of the top of my pendant. I am going to take a little bit more flux and just make sure that area is well fluxed. And I'm going to take my soldering iron and I'm going to load it up with a little bit of solder. And then I'm going to hold this here in the center, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on one side and then I'm going to tap on the other side. And I'm going to go back to the first side. And what's going to happen is my ring is going to sink into the solder, which it just did. So you'll know when that happens because it's just going to settle a bit, and the way that you test it is just open up your cross lockers, pick it up by your hemostat, and if you can pick it up by the ring, then that means that you've done it. So now it's time to clean this baby up, but I'm going to take a second and unplug my soldering iron because I've been told in no uncertain terms that I'm not allowed to burn myself today. So let's just take the hot thing and make it be not hot. Maybe, maybe not. Can I unplug the soldering iron without burning myself? Unclear. Actually, unplug something else. Hopefully that wasn't important. Ah! Okay, if the stream goes away, it's because I accidentally unplugged like everything. There we go, whilst trying not to burn myself to death. Okay, so soldering iron is unplugged. Yay! I have no freaking clue. Oh, okay, that wasn't unplugged. That was the microphones. Cool. That's good. Okay, so this is gonna stay here, but it is no longer plugged in, therefore the chances of burning myself are much less. So now all I have to do is undo, okay, so I don't need my third hand anymore, open up my hemostat, and now I just have this slightly warm still pendant that's just full of gook. So I'm going to go back to my denatured alcohol. You can also use rubbing alcohol for this. I like the denatured stuff because it's like the best, but you can use rubbing alcohol from the drugstore and it works fine. However, if you're using rubbing alcohol, get the highest concentration of alcohol because a lot of people don't know that when you're getting rubbing alcohol, there are different levels of alcohol in it. So if you're going to use it for cleaning off things like flux, you really, really need to get the highest concentration of alcohol, which I think is like 90%. Or you can just get denatured alcohol from the hardware store, which is, I think, 100% alcohol and a little bit of cyanide. So, you know, dual purpose. So I just cleaned off all of the goop and gook from my glass on the front and on the back. If you have any rough spots on your solder, you can hit those with some steel wool. This is low temp soft solder, so you want to be careful with this. If you're going to hit it with any kind of sandpaper, you want to keep it a pretty fine grip because this stuff is not very hard. It's not very sturdy. So you don't want to literally sand away what you've just done, but you can use triple or quadruple zero steel wool, and you could use a fine sandpaper if you needed to. Like I've got a rough spot right here that I could deal with two ways. I could heat up my soldering iron again and I could smooth it out, or I might just take some 320 grit sandpaper and sand it down. But and also, you know, it's totally possible to murder this if you try. So like, don't go digging under there and yanking on it. Like, as long as you're wearing it like a normal piece of jewelry, everything is fine. If someone sets out to destroy one of these, then they're going to be able to do it. So this is one of those, you know, normal wear and tear only kinds of pieces of jewelry. But that being said, it's really fun to be able to take a cool thing and put it under glass, make it into a fun pendant. And again, I do love the stained glass on the back. I think it gives you a really nice background and you don't need to worry about, again, if your piece doesn't fit your frame, you don't have to worry about backing it up with anything. So yes, but yeah, no boat towing with these pieces of jewelry. Absolutely not. But there we go. We did it. Underglass pendant, tarot themed, as I am preparing again for the Beetlejuice ball. And I really do need to sand that down. I'll do that tomorrow. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. So I will definitely add microscope glass and stained glass to the sale next week, Thursday. And then we have had requests for Zoom tomorrow night, so that's what we're going to do tomorrow evening. I am working a birthday party, so Heather will probably be starting the Zoom, and I will be coming in closer to the end as I'll be coming back from the party, and I may or may not actually be here. I may join the Zoom from home, but I will be on for at least a little bit tomorrow night, but later than the start. Okay, now I have the hiccups. That's no fun. Later than the start time. Julie makes, yeah, this is, yeah. Julie makes beautiful polymer clay pieces. and uses filigrees with her polymer clay to make really lovely items. And then she also has a whole line of actually trademarked jewelry pieces called touchstones, which are polymer clay mixed with herbs and particular meditations and intentions to bring certain things into your life. And all of her things are absolutely beautiful. And one of my favorite pieces of jewelry in all the world is a pin she made that says Hoyden, and I've lost it, and I really miss it. but yes, and there she is. She can describe her jewelry better than I can, but do miss my Hoyden pin. Don't know what happened to it. So anyway, I lost my mouse. It's really, Julie, do you still have an Etsy or website or anything? Mockingbird Studio is her business name, but I don't know if she has an online presence anymore because reasons. That's all I have to say about that. Like, no, she actually had a darling little witchy shop in downtown Elgin, but brick and mortar is just so freaking hard. It's so hard. Like, it really is. So kudos to you for trying. Thank you. At some point, I miss it so much. Like, it always lived on my hat, and then I think I moved it to something else, and I have a feeling that it's on a garment that's folded up and put away somewhere, but I've not been able to find it. So, oh right, I forgot. Yes. So no web presence for Julie, but everyone can take my word for it that she makes awesome stuff. All right, so I think that's it for me this evening. I have a new pendant. I'm very excited. Actually, I think I'm going to wear this tomorrow and make more for the library event. So yeah, that's my little mini high priestess, my mini wider ray. Okay, I do have to, before I go, I have to show you this tiny tarot deck because, like, I'm not even kidding, y'all. Like, it's a whole deck. It's a whole deck. It's even got, like, reading layouts in the handout, which, like, I mean, I don't think I could stand to do any kind of a layout with these tiny cards. But look at them! Look how tiny they are and how cute! And it's the whole deck. It's like the whole thing is there, and it's so small. I love it. Yes, they sell it on Amazon, and I'm gonna actually get some to resell at the library event. But this whole one is probably gonna wind up as pendants. So I know, so cute. All right, so I'm gonna stop rambling, and I'm gonna let everyone have a good rest of your evening. Thank you so much for joining us. So we will not be on Twitch tomorrow. We will not be on Facebook nor YouTube. We will be on Zoom, and again, Heather will be starting that Zoom. I will be joining later because I'm going to give her the choice of starting the Zoom or doing the birthday party, and I know which one she's going to pick. So I will see y'all tomorrow on Zoom, and then we'll be back with more classes next week on twitch.tv/beadingdream. Everyone have a good night, and I'll catch you later. Bye!